Right.
Hi, Muchada. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Janai?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Slightly late, normally 6:30, but thank you very much for joining us.
No, it's a pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
So let me just start with a brief introduction about you. Tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Muchada Bvunzawabaya?
Yeah. So who's Muchada Bvunzawabaya? I'm a business owner and also a property developer. I've been running a company called Rock Housing and Support Services Limited for the last 5 years. And what we do is we look after young people that have been taken into care, particularly 16 to 18 age group right now. And we accommodate them and give them independent skills. So that's my main business that I run. I also do some mentoring, helping people that actually want to get into that business, and also alongside Rock Housing, got a property portfolio that we predominantly use for the business, and also, I don't know, looking to expand the business also in the property business. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I suppose you can ask me more direct questions, and the viewers can also ask me. I'll be free to answer.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Touching on, you mentioned you've got a supported living business. What is supported living?
That's a really good question, because a lot of people that I support and mentor, they always tell me that they want to do supported living. And I suppose the distinction is, for me, we do supported accommodation. I suppose for everyone that's involved in property, it's more like social housing. This is a type of social housing where we are supporting vulnerable young people. They're taken into care. Usually they go into either foster families or residential homes. But when they're about 16, 16 and a half, they want a bit more independence, and they come into provisions like ours. There is other supported living where maybe you're supporting people that might have learning difficulties or mental health issues, or other aspects which might involve personal care. But in the supported accommodation we do, there's no personal care involved. It's just equipping them with independent skills before they turn 18.
Okay, that's fine. That sounds really good. So how do you find these children? What's the process? If for somebody out there who's thinking of going to supported living, what would you say, just briefly, what's the process? Where do they find these children?
Well, we had to actually make a tender application to get a contract with the local authorities that we work with. So we've been quite successful that we tendered for the contract, and we were awarded a contract where it involves about 23 different local authorities across the West Midlands area. And we've been supporting young people from those various local authorities. So, and that is really the key thing. Anybody that really wants to get into supported accommodation, they have to look in their area. Firstly, are there any existing tenders, existing contracts that are out there? Are the local authorities open to new entrants, or do they have to wait until the particular contract is tendered, 1 year or 2 years down the line? So it's always important, if you're going to look into it, do your research, see, is it actually a viable business for the particular area that you are looking into? But I think the more important question for me, I'm talking as a mentor now, is why are you doing it? What's your why for wanting to get into supported accommodation? Is it you've just heard, Mr. Jones down the road is doing it, and now they're driving a Range Rover, or they're driving a flashy car, and you think, I want to get into that, yet you've got no compassion or empathy for young people, or, it totally doesn't meet your skill sets of who you are. So I think that's more of an important question, not how to get into it, but why do you want to get into it?
Okay, I think that's a very good question. That probably leads me to my next question is, why are you doing supported living?
So for me, I come from a teaching background. And I was a secondary school teacher, teaching maths, a wonderful subject that all young people love. So I'll get young people coming into my classroom. They used to call me Mr. B. As you can see, my surname is quite long, so
Yeah.
they shortened it. But, you know, you get kids coming in there, they already switched off. Maths is too difficult. I've never been good at maths, etc., and all of that. So, you know, as a teacher, I would try and really get them to achieve the best they can, you know, with whatever level of understanding they have in maths. So for me, it was all about empowering and helping young people. But, you know, as you can imagine, you know, you've got a classroom set up, 25 to 30 young people, depending on, is it a top set, is it a middle set or bottom set? So you've got challenging behaviors. So for me, I found I was doing more of classroom management and actually teaching, because I was dealing with disruptive behavior and bureaucracy with paperwork. So I couldn't really fulfill what my passion was, to empower young people. Yet in the setup that we have in our homes now, we have homes where the largest homes we would have is probably supporting 4 or 5 young people in one home. But there's more of a one-to-one. You know, you can really get to know the young person more, you can invest more into them, and you can really, a lot of these young people, I'll probably go back, our motto for Rock Housing and Sports Services is encourage, empower, and equip. Okay. So we encourage our young people to be the best version of themselves. And we empower them to believe that, you know what, despite your traumatic upbringing, because a lot of these young people, they've had parents that have struggled with substance abuse. They've had parents that have maybe struggled with mental health issues, or they've just been neglected. So they've not had a good start in life. And for them, they feel that their past, you know, nothing is going to amount, they won't amount to anything because of their past. You know, we try and change the narrative for them and say, look, despite your past, that does not determine your future. You know, you can be the best that you can be, regardless of what's happened to you when you're growing up or how your family setup has been. So, you know, for us, it's all about encouraging them to be able to achieve that and do the best that they can. And, you know, the last part, empowering them with independent skills, from budgeting to making positive life choices to helping them with their relationships, and really just giving them a platform that they can now use, you know, before they turn 18, to give them a better stead in life when they get into the big bad world as an adult, really.
Okay. That's really good. That's fantastic. So would you say somebody needs a background with children to do this, or what would you say the ideal person needs to, what kind of background should they be coming from to really succeed in this business?
Yeah, so to really succeed, I mean, the first thing was the why. You know, you have to be compassionate and empathetic for these young people, because trust me, you are going to be challenged, you know, as a manager, as a business owner. The young people, they're going to be initially resistant, you know, because they just think, I'm moving to a new home, these people don't like me, I'm going to mess up and be moved to another provision, because that happens a lot. But you really have to show that you are very keen and you really like, you're really invested in their lives and you care about them as an individual, not just another statistic of a young child that's coming to, you know, your home and it's just a business for you. So key thing, really, you know, be somebody that wants to impact young people. You know, that's the heart of what you should have in terms of your values. And then I think it's really good if you do have experience in working with young people. That's excellent. That will really, you know, give you an advantage. Or possibly even if you've worked with vulnerable people, then, you know, whether they might have learning difficulties or mental health, or even those that have been nurses in any other particular fields. A lot of my mentees, they've, you know, some of them are nurses, and that skill skill and professionalism of knowing what safeguarding issues are all about. That's transferable skills that they can use. So, and if you don't possibly have those particular skill sets or experience, but it's something you're quite passionate about, then there are courses that you can do, you know, to make sure you've got that right qualification. But what would also then be key, build a good team around you, you know, of maybe other people that have got more experience than you, and work with that team that you've got and also learn from them.
Okay. Oh, that sounds fantastic. That's really good. So would you say, is it a business that's capital intensive? How much money does somebody need to start the business? What kind of legal structure should they have as a business as well to actually do supported living?
Yeah, so yeah, was fairly capital intensive. I think, you know, in terms of your initial investment that you need to put, you're looking, I always advise most of my mentees, you're looking at least about 15,000 that you need to set up and to start the business, because, you know, with a lot of them, they are looking at securing homes, rental homes that they'll use for the business. So you've got to have your cash flow to anticipate, you know, possibly 2 or 3 months before you've maybe secured a young person. You still have to be paying rent for the property that you've got. Once you start, you're obviously going to have to be paying your staff before your initial invoices come in. And so you do need to have that buffer. Most of the homes will need a bit of renovation to make sure that they're compliant with the various sort of guidance and regulations that are there for supported accommodation. So all of those things, it does involve money, and it also involves a lot of tenacity, I would say, because, I mean, classic example for us, when we first started, you know, we had to wait almost 4 months before we got our first young person. However, we were fairly fortunate that the property that we had to set up and start the business was one that we owned. So we just had to ensure that we're maintaining the mortgage payments. You know, obviously, it's not as much as if you're renting a property. But, you know, those are the challenges that you'll face when you're setting up. So you have to have a buffer in terms of the initial investment to ensure that you can ride through some of those initial hiccups when you're setting up.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And as a legal structure, would we say you are set up as a limited company?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be set up as a limited company for any sort of tender that you're going to be making an application for. The local authorities expect you to be established as a business, and just making sure that, you know, whatever directors you have in your business, if they can add a certain value to the business, that would be great and would be important. Or if they're just silent directors, then fair enough. But it definitely does have to be a company. Although you do have some people that are doing it as a community interest company. They are providers who are community interest companies. They're also providers that are charities. But I would say definitely, you know, seek a bit of advice from your accountant and from someone else that's established if you're looking at setting up in those different entities. Otherwise, it's a limited company.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. Thank you, Muchada. You also mentioned that you are a property investor as well. So how did the two link with your rock housing and being a property investor?
To be honest, they link in very well. It's a very good model to have, because for us, as I mentioned a bit earlier on, our first property, which we used when we were setting up the business, was a property that we owned, both me and my wife. So we were able to, you know, make the relevant renovations for that property and have it conducive for supported accommodation. We've subsequently got another property that we own, which that is got HMO licensing on it, and we are using that for supported accommodation, where we're able to support up to 4 young people in that particular provision. So definitely you can have your various properties if you want to go into this where you can utilize those properties for being able to then, because you're accommodating the young people. So that's quite key. You're accommodating the young person, and there's usually a staff member that's present, depending on whatever criteria and risks assessments that young person has. Either you could have one staff supporting 2 or 3 young people. However, if the contract is different and need more staff members to support them, you'd have more staff members. So your accommodation can actually be supporting the young people that we have. So we have 2 that we own, and we're actually looking at trying to purchase a 3rd one where we can accommodate young people. But we also rent 2 other properties from landlords, and we utilize their properties for supported accommodation.
Okay, that's fantastic. How easy is it to convince a landlord to actually take on their property? Is that a challenge?
Yeah, wow. That is, it can be a challenge. Yeah, definitely. It can be a challenge. And I think it's, I mean, there are a few tricks to it, which I use with my mentoring, but I'll share some of them anyway today.
Thank you.
So I think for landlords, initially they're very apprehensive once they hear there's an element of social housing, especially if it's teenagers. You know, they think teenagers are rowdy, they're going to damage the property, and they're going to be having parties, etc., and all of that, and their place will be trashed. So I think the initial reassurance a landlord really needs is, firstly, you know, there's certain standards that we have to adhere to with the local authority in terms of ensuring the house is well maintained. So if anything does need to be fixed, if there's any potential damage that happens, then usually we as a provider would have to incur that cost. So it's trying to reassure the landlord that, firstly, if there are any damages, we would ensure that we sort out those damages if they've been caused by the young person. But it's also to reassure the landlord that there's always a staff member that's present. Particular model we use, we always have a staff member present. So that way, you know, it's not that the young person's free to do whatever they want in that particular house. And then just reassuring them that if it does happen, you know, if we as a provider feel we can't really continue supporting a disruptive young person, we would have to terminate our contract. Then the other thing is really just reassuring the landlords that your rent will be paid. You know, we are contracted to pay your rent as the company, and just giving them that reassurance that, you know, we will keep up to the rental payments despite what may happen with the local authority in delays and invoices. We're committed to paying you on time. But yeah, you have to really be tenacious. You can easily get landlords that don't even want to entertain or listen to what you're recommending, which is they can make that decision. It's also important to try and inform the landlord you're there for the long term. You know, you really want to continue using their house for the next 4 to 5 years, especially if you secure that contract, that tender. You know, so that sort of reassurance is something that can end up swaying some landlords to agree to use in their properties. So yeah, so those are just some of the things which can help finally get a landlord to agree to rent out their property for you to utilize.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. So what about going back into supported living in terms of operationally running it? Do you run it yourself, or who runs it for you?
Yeah, well, we've been fortunate, really. I mean, we've organically grown as a business. When we started off, I was working part-time, involved in another business with my wife, and I was doing the supported accommodation part-time. So I didn't have a lot of time to commit to it. So we started off with the one house. We organically grew. And, you know, I've been managing the homes for, you know, I'll say for at least a good 3 years. Within that time, I was training up a manager who was a senior support worker at that time. And now he's a deputy manager, and he oversees all of our homes, predominantly focusing on the Birmingham area. So I'm fortunate just to be overseeing that business. I'm not involved more so in the day-to-day operations. But yeah, it's I think what's key is just having your structures right at the start, even if you are, it's an aspirational structure. with a lot of business owners, you might have to start off doing a lot of the day-to-day tasks that you need for the business to be successful. But have an aspirational structure where you've got somebody that's going to be in charge of operations, you've got someone that's going to be in charge of finance, you've got someone that's going to be responsible for training. Just have those structures, as aspirational structures, so that as your business is growing, you're fitting people into those particular roles and relieving yourself as the business owner for you to eventually oversee the business and ensure it's running well.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you very much, Muchada. Could you give us maybe 3 top tips for somebody who wants to get into supported living?
3 top tips?
Yeah. I know you've given us a lot of information, but just your 3 main top tips.
Yeah, okay. I think top tips, first one is do your research. First one is definitely do your research, because I know there's a lot of people that are interested in getting into supported accommodation. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I know a lot of my fellow country people are looking at getting into supported accommodation. However, there are some particular areas where the local authorities have basically got block contracts with 2 or 3 providers, and for you to even make a breakthrough into that market is difficult. So really establish where you're going to set up. Is it viable in that area? If not, are you prepared to travel a bit, 50 miles, 80 miles or so, to set up in another local authority which possibly has got more opportunities for you? So that's the first one. Definitely do your research. Second tip is just be tenacious. If you're really aspiring to sort of have that dream where you want to not be tied down to a 9-to-5 job, you're feeling that this business is what's going to give you financial freedom to do the things that you love to do, it doesn't come overnight. So work through those challenging times, and you'll be rewarded as long as you've got a good business plan. And business plan, definitely plan. Make sure that you've got your business plan. It doesn't have to be anything too elaborate. You've got 1-page business plans, that just guide you in terms of, okay, what are the steps we're going to take to get this business set up? But have something. Don't just jump into it without having some sort of structure to show you where to go. So I would say those are probably some of the tips that I can give you. And I think probably the last one, which is so important, is, when you have that initial breakthrough with that young person, your first client, and I think we all know that as business people, really treat that client well, because for us, a lot of the referrals that we get, yes, we do have to, the local authorities do have to go through whatever procedure there is to evaluate and see who's the best provider. But because we've done such a great work with a lot of the young people that we've had with a particular local authority, they more or less, they'll go through the process, but they'll be reassuring us that, look, Webster, we know you've done a fantastic job with the young people that you've had, and would actually prefer to place this young person with you. Very interesting stories. So what happens is the referrals for the young people, they come out on a particular website, on a portal. I was quite busy, and my admin staff also were quite busy. They hadn't seen the placement request for a young person. I think that request had been out for probably a good 4 or 5 days. And we literally had a phone call, from the placement team. They said, Webster, what's going on? There's this young person is on the portal. We're just waiting for you guys to put in your response. Is it because you don't have any, places to accommodate him in Coventry where you guys are? And I said, oh, apologies. My team hadn't seen it. We definitely do have vacancy. And, it was merely a matter of saying, yes, we can accommodate this young person. And, the following week, that young person was placed with us. So always do a really good job, and, your reputation will speak volumes for you when you're breaking into a particular industry.
Okay, no, that's great. That's fantastic, and thank you for that example. That's really good, and it shows how well your business is doing for them to to wait for you to actually put in the referral. So that's really good.
Yeah.
Just to finalize our talk, it would be nice because I know you mentioned about mentorship. You mentioned you're a property investor as well, and I know lots of people would want to are interested in getting into supported living. Where
Yeah.
can people find you? How can people also work with you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, for me, when I was talking about encouraging, empowering, and equipping young people, that's not just a motto that we have for our business. It's also something that I value in terms of with the mentoring that I do. So, I've got a mentoring company that I run. It's called Mentor Me Muchada. Just type in mentormemuchada.co.uk. It will come out. You can put in a request to have a free 30-minute conversation with me to see, is this really for you? Is this business for you? Do you have the right skill sets? Is this something that's viable for you? I'm free to have a chat with you and explore that. And then from that, really, it's then a matter of seeing, okay, we've got 3 particular different programs that we run. A bronze mentoring program, a silver mentoring program, and a gold mentoring program. So it's just seeing which is the best for you to help you achieve that dream. So yeah, I'm quite free to see if anybody that wants to get involved, just get in touch with me, go onto our website. I can also probably leave my phone details, I think, on this platform. Is that possible? To leave my details, they can contact me on the phone, but I think it's probably easier to do it through the website because it will have the allocations of the free slots that you can just contact me and yeah, we can talk. And if it's definitely viable for you and you've got the right skill sets, then we can help you achieve that dream. So please do contact us if you're thinking about venturing into this.
Okay, thank you very much, Muchada. That's fantastic. And thank you for joining us this evening. It's been great pleasure listening to your business model and how you're going about it. And I think it's very encouraging to see doing so well and excelling so well. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, brilliant. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope it's been helpful for anyone that's, looking into getting into this.
Thank you. You take care.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
All right.